All right. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how I would start my poster. All right. Some of you are at a point where you're ready to start your poster. If you're going to start your poster, remember it's tabloid size. So you're going to go to File, New, and when your document tab opens up, there are a lot of different options. You're going to want to do 11 by 17. That would be tabloid. In Photoshop and even in Photopea, if you go to print, it gives you options, right? One of them is already tabloid. So you can click on that. You'll notice that it'll set up your details for your file to 11 by 17 in inches. You can hold your poster, you can hold it portrait or landscape, right? It's totally up to you. I think most classic posters are portrait, but it does not necessarily mean that it can't be landscape either. You can set I will set my files to 300 resolution. That just creates a really, really big file. But if you want to cut down the size, you can cut it down to 120 and that would be totally fine. And then what you're going to do is hit create, okay? And you can see that you have your tabloid poster size file. I would then go and just save it really quickly so that you have it saved. You know where you saved it. Make sure you save it as a Photoshop file. I had started one already last week when I was demonstrating with some of you. And I just wanted to go over how I would do this again. I would first start with your background. I would try to focus on everything as a whole. But also, as you're doing that, think about, what your background's going to look like in comparison to the information in the front. Remember, the background might just be visual images, but the background images might help to direct your eye to information from one side of the poster to the other. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my background. Okay, so... oh, is this my file? Let me see something here. It should be. I guess I got rid of a lot of things. Okay, it's okay. So I'm going to name this as my background. You might already have a background, which is great. If you don't, you can create a new file. And I already added in just one picture, right? This is going to be my zodiac symbol. I'm going to just turn that off for a second. So I'm just going to show you a few different options. Of course, you can bring in images from online to use for your background. Just make sure that they're large enough files and they're not that small and pixelated. But one thing that you can do to create a background is use your gradient tool. And I feel like I showed this last week. This would be a great tool to create a background. So your gradient tool might look like the paint bucket, or like this when you initially look at it. When you hold down, you want to click on the gradient tool. On my Photoshop, it's located right underneath the eraser. And then what you could see at the top, it gives me options to customize my gradient. So if I click on this tab, it shows you different options of colors, but you can change them. So if I were to click on this one, for instance, it's going to be red and green. But I don't want red and green, so I'm going to double click now on this gradient to edit it. Okay, so I double click and you can see that a new tab opens up. All right, and what I could do is then go and change my colors on the color stops that I have here. So I'm going to double click on this little color stop, this red one. And I'm going to change it to like a lighter blue, okay? And then I'm going to double click on this one on the other side, and I'm going to make it like a darker blue. Because Aquarius is like a water sign, so I want to make mine blue. I can also shift the colors around. I can, excuse me, add colors. All right, so if I wanted to, I literally just clicked and it added this other color stop. I can double click and add another blue into the picture. if I wanted to. And if I didn't want that color, I can always take it and pull it out and get rid of it. So let's say these are the colors that I wanted to use. So what you would do, you can see that there's this axis line here. When I pull the line, right, now I'm going in a vertical direction. You can see it creates this really pretty gradient in that direction. I'm going to just Control Z this. I can also have it go in this direction. And I can also have it go on like a diagonal. If you notice that there's other options at the top, I can make it more of like a radial gradient. Right? So there's a lot of different options here to play around with. One thing to remember though is that the longer you make this line segment, the softer the gradient's going to be. The tighter or the shorter you make this line segment, like if I were to make it this big, it's going to make that gradient really tight. So I want a nice smooth gradient, so I'm going to make this really long and run it through. So that could be your background right there, right? And then I can start adding in my pictures and my information and so forth. But you can also add textures to it. So if you go up to layer style, remember you have all of these different blending options. I can make it look like satin. I could add a pattern. So I'm going to add a pattern to this, right? So you can add cool textures. If I click down on the pattern tab, you can see a lot of different options pop up here. And the cool thing is that I can scale it up and I can scale it down, make it like a smaller. I can add opacity to it if I really wanted to make it noticeable. Or maybe I just wanted to make it like a little bit more transparent. I can also change the blend mode. So right now it's on screen, but you can check out what happens when you put it on multiply, color burn. That looks kind of cool. So changing the blend mode changes the effect. I'm going to just keep it on. I actually like to multiply. Okay. All right. So you can see that it added an effect to my background. So there's a lot of things you can do with your background without like adding a picture from the internet. Then you can start adding in your pictures, like bringing pictures in, right? So I would definitely make sure you organize it, label everything, like your zodiac symbol, and anything else that you add, I would definitely title it so that you know what that layer is. I can lower the opacity of my picture. I can change the blend mode. Right now I have it on color dodge, right? This is what it would look like normally. That's what the picture looked like when I got it. But then I can go in and check out some of these different blend modes. I kind of like the way that looks. What I might do is go in with my eraser, which is above my gradient tool, and put it on a soft brush, which it's on, and then lower the opacity and the flow. So right now I have my opacity and flow at, 38 and 52%. And then I'm going to go in and kind of soften the edges. I want to kind of get rid of that square look to it. So this is an easy way to get rid of a background without having to like really go in and erase everything. Although you can see I wasn't being very careful and I started to erase part of the S of Aquarius. Okay. I can also go in, I'm going to just go backtrack a little bit, go to my history here. Maybe I don't want to erase anything and I want to add an effect. Maybe I want to add a drop shadow. I'm going to go to Layer, Style, Drop Shadow. Maybe I want to add something cool like that. I can lower the opacity. Right, I'm going to Command T or Control T. Maybe I'll make this a little bit smaller. And then I could go in and start adding more pictures. Maybe I want to start adding in my title. So I'm going to have it say Aquarius. Right, and then figure out where I'm going to put it. Maybe it's going to go up here. And I'm going to put the dates below it. Maybe I'm going to put it along the side here. Well, it's pretty big. Right, and then put my dates up here. I don't know. But that's definitely how I would start your poster before, and then as you're making this, then start continuing to add in some of the information. I'll make a separate video about setting up text boxes of information. But I hope you find this helpful, and if you have any questions, just let me know.